Audiobook number 3.
Secundo, Book of Vendetta, page 38. Laws and rules imposed on you. From days of old renown are not intended for your good, but for your crushing down. Then dare to rend the chains that bind, and to yourself be true. Dare to liberate your mind from all things, old and new. Chapter 1, page 39. Cain and Abel. In time, Eve and Adam were blessed with 2 sons and a daughter. The eldest was named Cain, the second-born was Abel, and their daughter was called Noria. Abel took up the life of a herdsman, caring for animals, while Cain chose to be a farmer, cultivating the soil and tending to the plants and animals that dwelled there. It was a world filled with radiant light, for the very essence of light manifested itself in the chlorophyll that adorned the plants. Chapter 2. God still harbored a vendetta against Adam and Eve, ceaselessly tormenting them, and now seeking the souls of their offspring. One fateful day, God approached Cain and Abel, calling out to them, "Young lads, I am God, and I bring you an extraordinary opportunity. Anything you desire can be yours if you ask in my name. The only requirement is a small blood sacrifice. Bring forth your finest animal offering and present it to me at my sacred altar as the sun sets." Intrigued by the enticing offer, Abel's curiosity ignited, while Cain's doubts lingered. Nevertheless, lured by the allure of limitless blessings, Abel turned to Cain with eagerness and proclaimed, "God has pledged to fulfill our deepest longings. We risk nothing by presenting a small sacrifice, yet stand to gain everything." Despite his reluctance, Cain acquiesced and decided to partake in the offering, steadfastly refusing to take the life of an innocent creature. Instead, he made a solemn commitment to present the exquisite bounty from his abundant crops to God. Gently placing his offering upon the sacred altar, he raised his sacrificial dagger and declared with reverence, "Mighty God, I humbly present this vegetation as my earnest offering to you." With utmost care, he meticulously severed the vibrant produce and ignited the logs, watching as their flames danced and the smoke gracefully ascended towards the heavens. Chapter 3, page 41. Following Cain's offering, Abel approached the sacred altar with solemn determination. Clutching a lamb that he had separated from its bleeding mother, he carried it forcefully towards God's designated place of sacrifice and gently laid it on its side. Raising the gleaming dagger high above his head, Abel proclaimed with reverence, "To you, mighty God, I offer this blood sacrifice, acknowledging your supreme power and might." With a swift and decisive motion, he slashed the throat of the lamb, causing its crimson life force to cascade upon the altar, painting it in God's favored hue, deep, blood red. Then he set the logs ablaze, releasing fragrant smoke into the air. As the scent of the burning offering wafted towards the heavens, God's pleasure filled the divine realm. "Abel, your blood sacrifice brings me great satisfaction," declared God with delight. "It is truly pleasing, exceedingly pleasing." Yet God's countenance turned towards Cain, and with a solemn tone he addressed him, "Cain, your offering of vegetation falls short of my expectations. I specifically requested a blood sacrifice, and you presented vegetation instead? My covenant remains intact with Abel, but as for you, Cain, our agreement is null." Cain's heart swelled with anger upon learning that God had rejected his offering. In response, God questioned him, saying, "Cain, why do you allow anger to consume you? Had you presented the blood sacrifice as I had requested, I would have received it." Chapter 4. A few days later, while Abel was laboring in the field, God approached him and said, "Abel, I have a new proposition for you. If you accept, both you and your brother will become the most influential men in the land. All I ask is that you persuade Cain to offer a blood sacrifice as a gesture of obedience to me." Abel pondered for a moment and responded, "Although this request presents great challenges, I am willing to undertake it." Chapter 5, page 43. Time passed, and Cain and Abel found themselves toiling in the field together. Abel seized the opportunity and shared with Cain. "Cain, God has informed me that if you offer a blood sacrifice to him as an act of obedience, we will become the most powerful men in the land." However, Cain vehemently opposed the idea, exclaiming, "Absolutely not. We have been taught from our earliest days, and ye harm none, do what thou wilt. I have already presented my finest crops, which should be sufficient." This disagreement sparked frustration within Abel, leading to a heated argument between the two brothers. As the tension escalated, Abel impulsively lunged towards Cain, intending to harm him. Swiftly, Cain defended himself, blocking the attack and grabbing Abel by the wrist. They grappled fiercely, eventually toppling to the ground. Unfortunately, Abel's descent caused him to collide with a rock, striking the back of his head with fatal force. Instantly, Abel succumbed to his injuries and breathed his last breath. Chapter 6: The Great Escape. Overwhelmed by fear, Cain hastily fled into the depths of the woods. God pursued him and inquired, "Cain, what befell your brother?" Consumed by terror, Cain dreaded the blame that might befall him, and replied, "I do not know. Am I expected to be his constant guardian?" While God was well aware of the truth, he seized this moment to both chastise and bewilder Cain, the one who had offended him. "O Cain, what have you wrought?" He feigned. "Listen. Your brother's blood cries out from the very earth you once held in reverence, and I have laid a curse upon you. No longer shall this land yield its bounty willingly to you. You shall toil endlessly in the fields, aimless and restless, a fugitive without solace." Cain, overwhelmed with despair, fell to the ground and cried out, "O God, this curse is too severe. I shall be adrift, estranged from all others. Eventually they will pursue me and seek to end my life." Cain sought refuge in the wilderness of Nod, where he and his family carved a modest kingdom from the land, cultivating their own garden. News of the tragic events surrounding Abel's death spread swiftly, giving rise to numerous tales and speculations. Despite the swirling rumors, Cain remained steadfast and preserved his integrity. Chapter 7, page 47. Lucifer's encouragement to Cain. One sunny day, as Cain toiled in his garden, he noticed Lucifer approaching. "Who are you and what brings you to me?" Cain called out. Drawing nearer, Lucifer conveyed his knowledge of the true events surrounding Abel's tragic demise in the field. "Cain, I am aware that God lured Abel into persuading you to offer a blood sacrifice. However, you bear no guilt in this matter," Lucifer asserted. "It was Abel's foolish compliance with God's demands and his succumbing to anger that led to his own demise." Engaged in a profound and uplifting conversation, Lucifer offered words of encouragement to Cain, urging him to remain resolute and stay true to his own path. "When we discover our radiant calling and unwavering will, we find solace," he shared. Lucifer voiced concern about the pervasive reach of God's dominion, which had contaminated and poisoned the minds of nations. The people have been blinded by God's corrupting influence, adopting his very traits of aggression, deceitfulness, and authoritarian inclinations. They adamantly reject responsibility for their deeds, choosing instead to shift blame and scapegoat, mirroring the behavior of their father, Yaldabaoth. Chapter 8, page 48. Lucifer proceeded to impart his wisdom and knowledge to Cain, emphasizing the importance of preventive measures. "Allow me to enlighten you with some fundamental principles," he began. "One principle states that what happens in the higher realms is mirrored in the lower realms, and what occurs internally reflects externally. Another principle asserts that every action triggers a corresponding reaction of equal magnitude. These are principles of causality and consequence. Keep these basic principles in mind, as they will guide you throughout your life." Concluding his teachings, he shared the Luciferous exhortations before departing on his own path.